Hey, what's up? Zach here, and these are my top 5 favorite tennis shoes for spring and summer 2025. And when I say this is the hardest top 5 list I've ever had to make, that includes tennis, basketball, and pickleball, because there's been so many great shoes that have come out this year, and so many different companies are just stepping up. Now, so for this one, what I want to do is I'm going to do my top 5, and after the number 1 shoe, I'm going to give you my not top 5, which are the 5 shoes that just came, just had one little thing maybe that kept them off the list. But kind of, you can think of those all as like the number 6 shoe on this list, because like I said, there were just so many. I do want to kind of show you which ones I did think were kind of right knocking on that door as well. So let's get into it. All right, I'm pumped up. This has been fun trying to make this list up. Coming in at number 5 is the K-Swiss Ultra Shot 4. Now, the reason this thing honestly is even so low on the top 5 list all comes down to weight, right? It is a heavier shoe. Everything else about it is the number 1 shoe on this list if it weren't for how heavy it was. The comfort in the uppers, the comfort underfoot, the playability, the grip, everything about it is just out of this world. And I love how people, when I first said how great I thought the shoe was and how high the rating was of it, people were saying there's no way, you're a shill, whatever. And then people actually started trying it. And then, oh yeah, this actually is a fantastic shoe. There's a reason why you see quite a few pros playing in this shoe, because it is so good. And I know I talked to, I was on the Craig Shapiro Tennis podcast talking about shoes and how just a lot of shoes are getting heavier now because of the demands of tennis players. Now they want shoes to be more plush, but also more durable, right? More comfort plus durability. It's got to come from somewhere. But yeah, if you want to know which personal shoe that I'd be wearing right now, it's this one. This is the one that probably I would want the most. All right, now coming in at number 4 is a shoe that in some previous times I've thought, if they just made some small tweaks, this would be a top 5 shoe, and it has also been in top 5 shoes before, but that is the Yonex Eclipsean 5. And they did just enough in the forefoot to make it a little bit more plush, but also keep that same ridiculous, rugged speed, especially that side to side and that off axis speed. The grip of Yonex rubber, I mean, Yonex makes the best rubber out there. I've been saying this for years, but now with these ones, lockdown being a little bit better, the forefoot comfort being just a little bit better, just have a little bit more kick. I really think these are kind of one of the best all-around shoes out there, right? Like, you want speed, you don't want them too heavy, you just kind of want a little bit of everything. This right here is kind of the melting pot of shoes in terms of there's really something for everybody. All right, and coming in at number 3, I honestly was ready to roll my eyes at these when I saw them first come out on the website. And then, you just never know until you try. And that is the Adidas Cybersonic 2. Now, I know it doesn't look much different than the ones, but they are. And they play a little bit snappier, a little bit more rugged. The underfoot feel is just a little bit more comfortable for them being such a speed-focused, just speed demon type shoe. I know some people don't like this modified energy rod that comes from the bottom, goes around the heel, but it does serve quite a unique and I think thoughtful purpose. And so for me, in terms of like a speed-focused shoe, right, one that, just use one for raw speed and just, raw court coverage. I don't really know if it gets much better other than maybe some other shoes on this list. All right, but coming in at number 2, and picking between the top 1 and 2 shoes this year was just ridiculous, but there's gotta be a winner. So coming in at number 2 is the Diadora B Icon 3. From the 2nd generation of the B Icon to the 3rd, the step up that these took was just nuts. Number 1, the Diadora Anima Foam, whatever they're doing to it, please continue. It is the perfect blend of plush comfort, stability, but also energy return. Even though these are a little bit heavier than some predecessors, they still have so much kick to them. They still feel like more of a speed demon shoe, right? They feel a lot like the Cybersonic 2s. They feel that speedy. And then when you've got the medial stabilizer and the lateral stabilizer here, what makes up the shank of the shoe, you're getting so much push-off power, so much stopping power, but then also so much front to back speed in them, while that foam is still giving you a really plush, comfortable ride while not being a squishmallow, because sometimes you get super plush, comfortable foams and they're just not very stable. This one has that perfect combination of it. And, like I said, this could be the number 1 shoe for sure, but I think the number 1 shoe maybe just edged it out in just a few categories, which get to right now. Actually, no, I lied. I'm not gonna get to that right now because I do wanna get to the Xenon Zen Slide. These have been a little bit retooled for the summer. New colorways have come out. Still the blue, the slate gray, but now I've got black on smoke gray. The dorsal retention strap has now been just tweaked just a little bit to give it a quicker break-in, a little bit more plush break-in as well. And the sizes have now expanded, both smaller and larger. So if you want to check out my collaboration sandal with Xenon paddle for either recovery or all day wear, I'll leave that link in the description below. All right, now to the number one shoe. And like I said, this one and the Icon 3 were, you know, like I said, very hard to distinguish, mainly because they're from the same brand. And no, I'm not a secret Diodora plant, but it is Diodora Blue Shield Torneo 3. And, you know, in my reviews, you know, I said I liked the Icon maybe a hair more than the 23 personally because of what I was going through at the time. But I think overall, the Torneo 3 still is just a hair, just to me, in my opinion, overall, just a hair of better shoe. The reason is the Torneo 3 has always been a super rugged shoe. It has always been a very protective shoe, especially in the forefoot with all that Blue Shield foam under there. And, you know, in the forefoot playing tennis, it's pretty important, especially also complementing that in the rear foot, keeping the rear foot stable, also really important for tennis. But my knock on the Torneos has always been, yeah, they're comfortable, yeah, they're rugged, all that other stuff, they're protective, but they don't have a lot of kick, right? Is the energy return there? Whereas in the 3s, not only do you get a lateral flange, right? But then you get a lateral flange in the rear foot that's made up by a shank, right? So it's rigid. Then on the medial side, you get a medial flange that is rigid for more push-off power. The foam in it's just tooled, the compression side of the foam is just tooled a little bit differently, that the foam is giving a little bit more energy return to it. The shoe just pushes off a little bit better. The shoe is just a little bit faster. The energy return is just a little bit better. And to me, that brings it from, you know, an excellent shoe up to what I at least think is the best shoe on the market because it just brings that little bit more, it brings that missing piece of the energy return, that push off power, that speed to a shoe that already had, you know, so many good attributes to it. So that is the top 5. Let's talk about the not top 5. And before I get into the not top 5, I do want to make mention of a shoe that's not in the top 5 or the not top 5 and give an explanation for that because I know a lot of you are going to be screaming at me in the comments because of it. And that is the Nike Vapor 12. Yes, the Vapor 12 is leaps and bounds, at least in my opinion, better than the Vapor Pro 2 and the Vapor 11 because it's back to a normal Vapor shoe. But it also went way backwards. And that means that it's just a pretty standard slab of filing in there and then a Zoom Air unit in the heel. Yeah, there's a shank in them, but is there really anything new and innovative to this? My knock on the Vapor line beforehand was it's pretty unforgiving in the forefoot, and really those issues weren't addressed. Yeah, in the heel it's okay, but it is, you know, Nike's got so much innovation, and to go backwards but not bring anything with it, I thought was kind of a miss there, because if you're thinking about this versus, let's say, the Cybersonic 2, right? It's a very similar shoe. The B-Icon 3, right? Or even the ASICS Solution Speed FF3, or another shoe that's in the not top 5. Because to me, like say these versus the Solution Speeds, the ASICS Flight Foam is, you know, to me is gonna hold up maybe a little bit better over time. You know, some of these other shoes like the Cybersonic, just, you know, it's just gonna give you a little bit more, you know, forgiveness underfoot while keeping kind of the same speed characteristics and kind of playing characteristics. I'm not saying these are bad whatsoever. I actually do think these are a pretty good shoe, right? Especially for people that want that feeling, that low to the ground speed focused feeling. So I'm not saying at all that these are bad, just that in my opinion, they're not in the top 10. All right, but starting off the actual not top 5, this is in no particular order, because like I said, all of these I feel like, you know, knocking on the door of that number 6 shoe. Now, this first one is specific to the women's model of the shoe. That is the ASICS Gel Resolution 10. Now, I typically don't really buy the men's and women's specific shoes other than the lasting of the shoes, right? In terms of materials, like why wouldn't a woman want the same stuff that's in the Cybersonic 2s, right? So I think a lot of that is marketing, to be honest. But in the Gel Resolution 10, the lasting on the women's shoe, the shape of it, I feel like it's just a little bit more one-to-one and more true to size. And so you actually get all the benefits of it with the high medial wall, right? The ridiculous comfort underfoot of the Gel Resolution 10 without some of the slippage and some of the more clunkiness things. So I'd say definitely in the women's sizing, if you're a woman getting these or a man just going to the woman's size to get a little bit more of that glove-like fit in these, definitely a not top 5. All right, the next not top 5 would be the K-Swiss Hypercourt Pinnacle. I still think these are, if not the best, one of the best performance shoes out there, just raw performance. The comfort in the forefoot, I feel like just kept it out of the top 5 a little bit. Not saying it's uncomfortable, it's just, it's low volume. You really do have to get used to it. It's got that X cinch up there, so some people just aren't gonna be able to tolerate that. Like I said, performance-wise, they are out of this world. I dare you to find another one that is better in terms, like I said, raw performance. But it's just that the forefoot of these do take a little bit of time to break in. Like I said, it is low volume. All right, number 3 is a shoe that the previous model of it was the same reason I kept it off the list. And it's because number 1, super hard to get. Number 2, I don't understand the marketing of it this year. That is the New Balance Coco CG2. This to me is one of the best shoes in the world right now. I mean, easily, right? It is just as good as any of the shoes on the top 5 list. It should be on this list. It's just that I'll check and they're just not available, right? You can't get them. And then on the CG2, they made it in just the women's lasting, and they didn't like bring it all the way up to the men's lasting sizes. And to me, that's kind of a miss on New Balance, because that's New Balance's whole thing, right? Is being able to get different widths of the shoes, fit feet, right? And you're true to size. That's why I recommend New Balance more than any other shoe company across the board, like running, basketball, tennis, everything. New Balance is definitely the most common one I recommend. And I feel like in the CG2, where it's such a good tennis and outdoor basketball shoe, that men with a medium to wide foot just won't be able to get into them. And like I said, in terms of inventory, at least right now, it's hard. So we'll see what happens with the Del Reys. I have them right now. I haven't played in them yet, but I have them. We'll see what happens with those. But if you can get them in your size and you can break them in, size them up, then yes, for men or women, this thing is out of this world. And one of my personal favorites. It's just not one of my personal favorites in terms of the width fit. If I could get this in at least a D or a 2E, I'd be in this all day. All right, the 4th shoe on this list is the Lacoste AGLT 23 Ultra or Agility 23 Ultra. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be. You know, I still think these are fantastic. I just feel like the Cybersonics, maybe just a little bit better. They kind of occupied the same space, and I kind of like the ruggedness of the Cybersonics, maybe a little bit more. The containment in the rear foot, maybe just a little bit more. I mean, these are really good. Honestly, it's a toss-up. Really, I mean, these are such phenomenal shoes. I just thought the Cybersonics just all around, maybe just a little bit more of an all-around shoe, although these are still, like I said, phenomenal. All right, be coming in at number 5, and I say these ones till the end because I'm sure everyone's probably wondering where they are, and that is the Mizuno Wave and Force Tour 2. I still think these are a really good performing shoe. They're not as plush underfoot as the ones were, and they don't have the double ankle collar as the ones did. And that's what I really felt like brought them up to the best shoe to top 5 list running, because you got all that plush comfort, you got that really good feel underfoot, but the lockdown was so good that you could have so much confidence in them. Yeah, these ones may have a little bit more side to side stability to them, right? Like they'll push off side to side maybe a little bit better, but you know, what you lost for that, I feel like that was like the thing that just really exploded this shoe, right? To make this, you know, one of the best shoes out there. I still think it's fantastic. I still do think it is a top 10 shoe and kind of right knocking on the door. Like I said in my review of them, they are still ridiculous shoes. They're still great. Don't get it twisted. It's just that without some of those world-beating characteristics that were in the one, I felt like there were some other shoes out there that just, you know, just knocked it out by just a hair. Just a hair though, because like I said, it is still, like I said, phenomenal shoe. All right, so that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you want to check out any of these shoes in the top 5 or not top 5, I'll leave a special playlist linked up above. Make sure you subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.